Welcome back to another episode of Mom Talk, and we told y'all we were going to fill you in on how Victoria's right heart cath went, and today's the day. So I want to hear about it from start to finish.
Okay, so y'all all know I was super nervous beforehand because it was so traumatic the first time, just having to be wide awake, nothing for anxiety beforehand, and I got a big diagnosis after it.
Right.
So I was anxious leading up to the day, and then day of I felt okay. I had to be there at 11:30 to check in, and my appointment was scheduled for 1:30. So Jarrett went with me. We got there, check in. Probably around like 12, they came and got me, and I had to do labs.
And you were like still in normal clothes?
Yeah, I was just in my clothes. They went ahead and did place an IV line in my arm, and then back out to the waiting room. I wasn't connected to fluids or anything like that. I was just chilling with my IV in my arm. And then we just sat there for a really long time because obviously this can be a procedure you need in an emergent situation. Like, I'm not exactly sure what all you need it for, to be honest, but I think in certain situations with a heart attack, you need the cath lab.
Okay.
So I get it's a high demand area. But I got taken back around 4.
That's later than you expected.
It was later than I expected, which I didn't know what time I was going in for the procedure until the day before.
Oh, that's right, because we were waiting.
Yeah, they called me at like 3:30, 4 o'clock the day before because they don't even start making the calls with times until 1 p.m.
That is so interesting to me because I know you want to have a plan. You got to get kids places.
Yeah. So, I'd already developed a plan for if it was in the morning or the afternoon. Mm-hmm. I was covered either way. So that was good, but I feel like 4 o'clock was definitely later than I had anticipated.
Like even if they were late,
yeah. In my mind, I would still be home by dinner or like to tuck them in. Yeah.
Did you pack your bag?
I did pack a bag.
Okay.
Because everybody had stressed the importance of it. So Jarrett and I had both packed bags.
Okay.
And like kind of working with like, if I pack this bag, surely I won't need it.
Right.
But if I don't bring it, then I'll need it.
Yeah, so you had to.
So I did pack the bag. It just stayed in the car. I didn't like bring it in with me.
Oh, good. There you go.
Yeah. So I wasn't walking around with an overnight bag, but it was in the car if Jarrett had to run and get it. Mm-hmm. So 4 o'clock rolls around. They take me back. They start, getting the gown, getting me hooked up, getting a baseline EKG, blood pressure, all the good stuff.
And could Jarrett go back then or no?
Yes, he came back with me. It was a small room, and it didn't have a door. It had a curtain, like one of the slidey curtains. Mm-hmm. It was in a hallway, just like almost closet sized with a TV and a monitor in it, really. Mm-hmm. I was not on a bed, stretcher, or anything like that. I was in a recliner.
Oh.
I was just sitting up, chilling.
Okay.
And it's very cold in a cath lab. And it's cold in the cath lab hallways.
Yeah.
So they brought me like a warm blanket, and I was just hanging out. Mm-hmm. So one lady comes in, makes sure she goes over all the medications I'm allergic to, yada, yada. Goes over my labs from that day. And so then my doctor opens my curtain to come into my room, but the lady across the hall started coding.
Oh, good. Wow.
So he had to take off in there, but my curtain was open. So
you could see?
Yeah. I could like see this lady coding. Like it started, like I could hear through the curtain because she had a curtain too.
Yeah.
And she had her procedure done already.
So she was in a bed?
She was in a bed.
Okay.
I don't know what procedure she had done, but she was already done.
I'm picturing like the movies. They're like, lay this bed down.
No.
Get the paddles.
Jordan, it was.
Oh.
Literally exactly like a TV show. She was like, oh, I feel a little nauseous. And her nurse was like, okay, let me get you like a bag and some Zofran. And so she comes out in the hall to do that. And like my curtain's not even to the floor curtain. It's a half curtain. So I can see people's feet walking around. Mm-hmm. And so the nurse goes to do that. And she's like out of the room. And I guess the bag dispenser was right beside my curtain. And so I see her grab the bag and like go back across the hall. But while she's by my curtain, she looks at whoever. She's like, drop her bed. And I was like, oh my God, what is that? And Jarrett obviously has a little more knowledge as to what is happening. Mm-hmm. And she's like, call a code, get me a blah, 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 blah. Like she starts spouting out orders. All these people start rushing. And like I said, my doctor had barely come in my curtain and opened it slightly and like took off across the hall. Oh. And they started compressions. She was okay.
Praise.
It's not funny.
No.
But like Wow.
Yeah. And
It literally went from I'm a little nauseous to call a code in, I'm not joking, 20 seconds.
oh, that's terrifying.
I was like, okay.
And you're just there watching.
I'm just there watching, and I'm anxious for my procedure.
Yeah, that didn't help.
But that did not help anything at all. So my doctor finishes up over there. He comes back and, they come in and they're like, do you know what we're doing to you today? Like, make sure you understand what's going on. I'm like, yep. And so last time they had gone in through my arm, this time they were going in through my neck.
Did you know that ahead of time?
He told me in the room
Okay.
that they would be doing my neck. I actually think the lab lady told me first. But yes, I did not know before day of that it would be my neck. I knew my neck was a possibility.
Did you get more nervous, or it's okay, we're just going to do it?
I was really trying to control my thoughts. And I'm like, you know what? The arm was so terrible. Let's try the neck. Maybe it's completely different. Maybe it's so much better.
Yeah.
So I was really trying to hype myself up no matter what. So I get back into the cath lab. They wheeled me down there and get up on the table. It's like a C-section table. They have this still gigantic TV, just like they did at the other hospital when I got diagnosed. I'm like, oh, don't point that towards me.
Yeah.
So everybody was super nice. They used lidocaine to numb my neck. They also used, I believe, an ultrasound.
Oh, right.
Because they went in through my jugular vein. I guess you don't want to miss that.
Nope.
So they started to poke, and I didn't say anything or move or do anything. He's like, did you feel that? I was like, I felt just like a little poke. He was like, yeah, I need to know about that. So they did another shot of lidocaine, and then he was like, what about now? I was like, I'm good. So they went ahead and started. And, last time what freaked me out so bad was seeing it on the screen, but also the lidocaine numbed the bend in my elbow where they went in, but it did not numb my bicep, my shoulder, the right side of my chest. So all that area is where I could feel stuff.
You could feel it wiggling.
Yeah. So this time the lidocaine numbed my whole neck, a little bit down, I think, into the top of my chest. Anywhere they would have had to go pretty much to get into my heart had some type of numbing. I didn't feel it flipping around in here.
Okay, good. And could you see the TV or no?
I could if I wanted to, but since it was in my neck, those blue surgical cloths?
Oh, yeah. It's kind of draped on your face.
Yeah, they kind of put one on my head. I could still see out of my peripheral, but I would have had to try to. And I did at one point when I felt like I could. They did give me the stuff for relaxation. It was not Twilight like I thought it was going to be. It was me still fully aware, just relaxed. I mean, I could still talk to them. I could still talk about my kids. They needed me to hold my breath, breathe in, breathe out, do certain things like that. I could still follow commands. I wasn't falling asleep. I could still talk the entire time. The first heart cath at diagnosis, they did not do this. They put a mask on me, and it had nitric oxide. And they were like, just okay, leave this on your face for a few minutes. I was like, okay, cool. Then they took it off, and I don't know what they're doing. I don't know how long I'm really supposed to be in here. This is different than my first one, so I'm just waiting. And I can hear them talking and checking certain things, and I'm like, okay, that's probably normal. I don't know what any of it means. Then the doctor was like, let's do, I don't remember exactly what he used, but I'm pretty sure he said the saline challenge.
Okay.
So they got a bag of saline, put it in my IV, and instead of letting it drip or even fast flow, they put this cuff around the bag, and they pumped it like a blood pressure cuff to squeeze it really fast.
Could you feel that?
You don't really feel saline, but that weird feeling / taste smell that happens when they put it in.
Oh, so it kind of
I could feel it in the back of my I didn't feel the actual saline, but whatever the smell or whatever it puts off, I could feel it in the back of my throat.
Weird.
I could smell it pretty strong, even though it's not scented. But I mean, it wasn't bad. It was just, and it was very fast. She pumped, and the bag was empty.
Wow.
After the procedure, in the room still, the doctor tells me, you're kind of an enigma. We're not sure exactly what just happened. I'm like, that is what you want to hear.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to hear today.
He was like, but it's good news. And I'm like, okay, get on with that, because I'm confused. Mm-hmm. And he was like, we did a nitric oxide challenge on you. And before we even got the mask fully on your face, your pressure dropped from 32 to 18. He's like, I can't really explain a physiological reason why that would have happened without the mask really being on your face and free-flowing nitric oxide. But it did. He's like, we checked all our connections. We set back to 0. We tried it again. It was still 18. He's like, at that point, you'd had it on for a minute. Mm-hmm. So we can assume, but it worked very fast if that is the case. I'm like, I don't know what that means.
Right.
Great. And I'm still like very relaxed. So I'm like, okay, great. Thank you. No questions to be formed.
No, not right now.
And then he was like, we did the saline challenge to make sure that your pressure responded accordingly. And it did. It shot up to 41.
Okay. So you started at 32.
Yes, which is an improvement from last year at 36.
Okay.
It was not my goal number. My goal number was 17. Mm-hmm. However, the nitric oxide got me to 18.
Yeah, it did.
So I didn't know what that meant. I get out of the room. I go back to my little recovery room, the same place I had been before. The coded lady is still there chilling.
And everything's out of your neck, right?
Yeah. So, okay. I should back up. While he's talking to me, they're like, you're going to feel a lot of pressure. And I felt a lot of pressure. It's like when they remove the baby from your belly, like, you know the moment it happens.
Yeah.
I knew the moment that thing came out of my neck.
Oh.
And somebody has to like push and apply so much pressure because they just like opened your jugular and like hold it for so long. I think the pressure of them just like pushing on my neck, like my neck was very sore for a few days.
Yeah, you could not turn your head.
No. And I mean, I don't want to bleed out, so I'm thankful they applied the pressure.
Yes, we'll take it.
It didn't really bruise too bad. It got a little yellow.
You had a hole in your neck, though.
It was a hole in my neck because they don't stitch it because it's not that severe.
Right.
But it also like is kind of big, so it doesn't scab up immediately. It was like just a hole.
I would like to call it a Capri Sun straw-sized hole.
It was.
Okay.
That's what was left. The actual procedure itself, it was a bigger thing that went in there. But that is what I was left with.
And how long did it take for that to close up? 3 days? 4?
Yeah, 4.
Okay.
So I get back to the recovery room, and I was not allowed to eat. So I was pretty hungry. And they brought in some chips, a Coke, and a sandwich. Jared ate the sandwich.
He was hungry, too.
He was like, because he didn't eat with
Yeah.
me. So just chilling. They're just making sure like everything looks good on the monitor. Still respirations, oxygen, BP, heart rate, all that. The doctor comes in again to talk to me. And he was like, you are just so cool to work on. I was
love
like,
it.
oh my gosh, thank you. He was like, I mean, these are pretty straightforward. Typically, we're just getting pressures. And like, most people are not responders to nitric oxide. He said, you are. I was like, okay, elaborate.
Yeah.
I'm a little more with it now that I've had this chips and Coke. Mm-hmm. And he was like, so I'm going to pass along a message to your specialist. Because the specialist does not perform this procedure. Okay. A cardiologist has to. Mm-hmm. I'm going to pass along this message, but it appears that you are a responder to nitric oxide. And I will let her deal with how she wants to proceed. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And he was like, it's very rare with this condition that you are a responder. I was like, okay. Still not really knowing what that means. He's like, I still really don't know if the nitric oxide is what did that for you or if it was a delayed reaction to the sedation medications we gave you. Because those can drop your blood pressure. He was like, your systemic blood pressure stayed the same throughout the entire procedure. Your top number and bottom number did not ever change. Because they were checking it on my cuff like once every minute or 2 minutes. The entire time it had the exact same reading.
Wow.
So he's like, if the sedation was going to change your pressure in your lungs, generally we would see it systemically first, but that didn't happen.
That didn't happen.
He's like, so I'm not sure the physiological reason for this. He's like, makes most sense. You're a responder, even though the mask was barely on you and should not have had time to do anything. I'm like, okay, thank you. Because I still just don't even, like, I'm still kind of out of it, and I don't fully know what that means, but I hear what you're saying, and it's good news.
When you text me, I was like, Amy, she responds to nitrous oxide. Amy's like at the dentist?
The laughing gas.
I'm like, yeah, let's get her some. I didn't know.
So, I still don't really know. I had this information. Obviously, I'm nosy and read my full report on my portal. And then my doctor called me.
So you got to come home that night?
Oh, yeah. I got to come home that night.
Cleared to come home.
Cleared to come home. I got home. I still got to, like, see the kids. They were in bed and had already been tucked in. But I, like, popped in and was like, hey, I am home.
Yeah.
I was so tired.
Yeah, and you were still loopy.
I was still a little loopy. I was tired. It was a weird day. My neck was starting to be sore because the lidocaine was wearing off. So, like, even the, like, site they chose, it was starting to burn. Like, you could tell it had been opened skin. And I had to keep it covered.
Yeah.
I don't remember how many days later, but my doctor called me. And she was like, hey. She was like, so very interesting results came through from your heart cath. She was like, and I am so sorry I did not do a repeat heart cath when you first came to me last year.
But you came to her, what, a month after your heart cath?
Literally 5 weeks.
Yeah.
She was like, standard for me is that when somebody comes to me as a new patient, I do a repeat right heart cath right off the bat. Now, remember, there's only about 20 clinics for this across the whole nation. So when people come to her, it might be states hours away. She said, you had a right heart cath locally at a trusted hospital in the same town. I had no reason to repeat that 5 weeks later.
I mean, that makes sense to me.
She said, however, since this is what I do certain add-ons, if you will, during the heart cath, like the nitric oxide and the saline. She was like, just to see how you respond to different things. She was like, and now I'm kicking myself. I wish I would have done a repeat cath on you because it changes how we treat you.
So now that you've had time to sit on that, do you regret her not doing it?
No, I wouldn't have done it.
You were.
I
don't think so either.
I can't say flat out, I wouldn't have done it. I might have. I would have cried and screamed, and they would have had to put me out.
Right. But
It was too
you were
soon.
still, like, mentally so...
I couldn't sleep. I could barely eat. I was having nightmares. Like, I couldn't be left alone. I don't think I would have said yes at that point in time.
Yeah.
I think I would have been like, can we wait and see if these meds work? Which at that point, like, my meds were working. So, and that's another thing she said. She's like, you responded so well to treatment. We've done all the testing, genetics, like every test that can be done, pretty much. We've done it. This is just idiopathic pulmonary arterial hypertension. She's like, and it still is. She said, but you're a responder. I was like, okay. She was like, so anywhere from 2 to 10% of people are responders. Now, this is already a super rare condition. I have the rarest form of it. And now you're going to tell me it's even more rare because I responded. But this time it's good news.
It's good news.
She's like, I mean, this changes prognosis by 5 to 6 decades. I was like, wait, I'm 30.
Yeah, we love to hear that.
I mean, 90?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh. And when she said that, I was like, dang, you wouldn't give me a prognosis before, but it was less than 5 to 6 decades.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So she was like, we're going to change your treatments. She was like, we are going to be treating you with a medication that is generally used for high blood pressure, like systemic high blood pressure. I'm like, okay. I have low blood pressure. Mm-hmm. That is the reason I couldn't get sedation, if you don't remember. Mm-hmm. And that's just been my whole life.
Like, what do you typically run?
My top number never breaks 100.
Wow.
Like,
and baseline is 120/80.
That's average.
Average. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's a certain amount you can be under that, and there's a certain amount you could be over that, but that's, over that's considered high.
Right.
At some point. Mine's low. I mean, even if you look in the picture from where I posted it, like, having all of that done and being pushed that giant bag of fluids, I barely broke 100, and my bottom number, I think, was like 56. So...
yeah, you're running low.
I'm low. she was like, so we're going to have to titrate up on this and take our time with it. She was like, I'm going to start you off at 5 milligrams once a day. She's like, and then every week we're going to titrate up 2.5 milligrams. I'm like, wow, okay. I was like, is that just so like I don't like bottom out and crash with my blood pressure? She's like, yeah, we're trying to give your body time to adjust. She's like, our first goal is going to be to 10 milligrams. I'm like, wow, that's a lot for somebody who doesn't need high blood pressure medication.
Yeah. What's the goal?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
She gave me my
just
first
our first
goal.
one. Okay.
So when I get to 10 milligrams, and you know, it's one of those things like if I do 5 milligrams and feel good, and then I titrate up to 7.5 milligrams, but I don't feel as good and I'm having blood pressure issues, we hang out at 7.5.
So you don't get to come back down?
No.
Okay.
We're chilling because we have to at least get to 10 or it's not really going to do anything for my lungs.
Okay.
Now the rest of my body's got its own. It's about to be put through some stuff.
Yeah, it needs to get on board.
But she did say some people, they cannot make this transition. Like, they cannot use these medications. Their blood pressure responds horribly. And they just can't. It's not feasible for them to do it. Some people, it's fine. Because your body just is like, oh, yeah, we need this in our lungs. I'm like,
gets
what?
on board like it's supposed to. Okay.
I'm like, what? It just, like, does it balance me out? Am I going to have regular blood pressure now?
That would be wild.
And, like, not high in my lungs anymore?
Yeah.
So weird. So, yeah, at 10 milligrams, she will take away one of my medications that I've been on.
We're staying on both currently.
Mm-hmm. She will take away the ambercentin, which is the one that's harder on the rest of your organs. Mm-hmm. You have to have blood work done, make sure your kidneys, liver, pancreas are all functioning properly while you're on it. You have to have a negative pregnancy test every month or they won't give it to you. So once I get to 10 milligrams, she will take away the ambercentin and see how I'm doing.
Okay.
And then I'll titrate up again.
Okay. I would love for you to be off the ambercentin.
Yeah. And then tadalafil, I don't know if I've said this on here before. So that's Cialis, which is an erectile dysfunction medication. And I don't know exactly what dosages there are for men. I think it ranges from like 2 to 5, or I don't really know. But I know it starts at 2. Mm-hmm. I'm on 40 milligrams a day.
Wow.
So it's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The goal is to get me off of that as well. But the nurse that I spoke with, she was like, do not be discouraged if you have to have that one still. She said, you started on these medications and now we're kind of backtracking and we don't know exactly how your body will respond. You might still just have to be on the tadalafil.
Okay.
But the goal would be to get off both and just have this one medication.
Okay, so how are you feeling about all that?
I'm nervous.
You're nervous
I'm thankful
Yeah.
that I'm a responder, but I am nervous. And in the support group, I asked, hey, who else here is a responder? And a lot of people, I say a lot, 4 or 5 people responded. And they were like, I am. And like 2 of them were like, yep, I've been on the same medicine I'm about to get switched to since like 2006. And I'm very stable, doing great.
Okay.
And then a few of the people on there were like, I'm a responder, but some of them did not respond to the medication, even though they're a responder to the challenge they present in the cath. Mm-hmm. And then some of them are like, I'm a responder, but my systemic blood pressure, I cannot be on that. Like, they titrated for like a year and it never worked.
Wow.
Like, their blood pressure was terrible for a year.
Okay. I didn't know how long it was going to take to possibly get to that point, but wow, trying a year, that's a long time.
Yeah, my doctor's nurse said don't be surprised if the full process takes a year.
Okay.
Not to get to 10 milligrams and remove the ambercentin, but like to fully come off of tadalafil and ambercentin and be at our goal dose. Yeah. Whatever that may be. Just because a lot of it is based off how you're feeling and what you're able to do. Mm-hmm. We don't want to mess with they call it functional class. We don't want to mess with my functional class. Because right now I'm functional class 1, which means I don't really have limitations. Mm-hmm. I can do laundry. I can go up and downstairs. I can pick up my kids. Yeah. I can go for walks. So as long as my functional class is 1, anything that makes me a 2, 3, or 4, we're not trying to...
Right, we're not doing that.
No.
Are you optimistic that this is going to work?
I am.
Okay, good.
I am. And, I've talked about, I think your mind controls a lot. So I'm going into this with, this is exactly what my body needs. It'll be great. I don't know if I think it'll go seamlessly. I think I'm realistic that there could be, I just want to get to my goal,
Right.
which is 10. So ideally, it wouldn't take me too long if I'm titrating 2.5 milligrams every week. I don't want to be disappointed if I can't do that.
Are you going to be?
I feel like initially I thought I was, so I've kind of like reframed that in my mind and like, no.
It's just going to be.
It's just going to take time. If it takes time, and my body will figure it out, and it will be great. And, one thing my doctor also said on the phone with me was that the prognosis is obviously better, which is fantastic, but the quality of life is better also.
So you got a lot of wins out of this.
See, yeah, because that's the thing, like, obviously I want to live, I'm not ready to die.
Right.
But I want quality of life too. I don't want to be here
Miserable.
Of
course.
So when she said the quality of life and like the complications are lower with this too, I was like, oh, we're just really winning here.
Yeah.
Like, thank goodness for being the rare. If the rare this time, I knew it would work out one of these days.
One of these days.
I knew it had to come through.
I feel like you got a good answer. I feel like your number was lower and you got to come home that night. So for me, I felt like it was a good report.
Yeah, I think it's a good report. And the only side to this, which I'm not going to stress about because it's not a for sure, is that once the transition's complete, like let's say I complete it in a timeline that she kind of has optimistically laid out, I could need a right heart cath sooner to make sure my pressures are responding. So it could be more like a 6 month.
Rather than getting to wait a year.
Yeah.
How do you think you're going to be for that one? I mean, this one went well, but it's not
a lot better. I still don't enjoy it. I do prefer the neck over the arm.
Okay.
I do prefer to have the anxiety medication.
Yes.
I think I've had a better experience now, so it's not just that one bad experience. I kind of got a replacement.
Yeah.
So I'm good with it.
Okay.
I'm not looking forward to it.
No, it's
but
not
I'm
a day
not
of fun.
dreading it like I was before. Like, I'm not losing sleep or having nightmares about it. I have a better experience that my brain has, I'm so thankfully just kind of replaced.
Right.
Like, I still remember what happened, but it's not like reliving it.
And have you started the new meds yet?
No. So I'm going on fall break, and I wanted to wait until I got back. Just because if I do have any blood pressure challenges, I don't want to feel gross on a trip.
No, and you're flying, and
I'm flying.
You're not home. Oh yeah, you get to fly.
I get to fly. That was another thing. I had to have like a little clearance to fly from my doctor.
slip.
A permission slip from my doctor. I mean, I could have flown and just see what happens, but I know flying is kind of a weird thing with this condition, so I did ask, especially since I was already talking to these people about all these things, and I got my clearance to fly.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited for y'all.
So yeah, I'm excited. I will be starting the new meds when I get back from fall break, and honestly, Mason has a field trip to the zoo, so it'll probably be after that.
Okay.
Just because I don't want to have any issues on the field trip either.
Yeah.
And I'm going on
You're
that.
going, yeah.
So yeah, I will start it by the end of this month sometime. No time's ever a good time to not feel well or potentially not feel well.
Right.
And I can only control so much.
Agreed. But yeah, definitely, I can't imagine anybody would want to risk that on their trip.
No, I would like to be here. You know, we're only 45 minutes away from my specialist in the hospital. If I did need something, I don't anticipate that being the case. But I would still like that as an option. Yeah. It's like a comfort to me.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah. But no, I feel like it was really good news. And hopefully things go as good as they can with no real setbacks. And hopefully my body's just like, oh, we needed this our whole life.
Yeah, this is it. This is what we've been
like
missing.
You've had high blood pressure in your lungs your whole life. You just didn't know it. That's why your blood pressure's been low overall. It was all tied up in your lungs.
Yeah, they were hogging it. Okay.
So that's what I'm hopeful for. And I'm hoping for not like a lot of passing out.
Yeah.
I want to stay really hydrated.
Okay. Will that help? Hydration is
Hydration key. And I know salt. So that's a tricky one because I can't talk about this in the support group. People would come for me, but every situation's different. A lot of people in the support group do have some form of heart failure, whether it's congestive, right-sided, and they are on sodium and fluid restrictions.
Right.
Like they can't have a certain amount of fluids in a day or a certain amount of sodium in a day.
But you're about to have some salt.
I'm about to be drinking. I already drank the Element packets.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like that could possibly help me.
Yeah.
Because salt raises your blood pressure. And I haven't wanted to do that because it also raises it in your lungs.
Right.
But if we're doing this, I think I feel good about it.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Have a little mixer of that.
Yeah. We'll just see how it goes. And we'll talk about it if I'm passing out all the time.
Y'all will be the first to hear. Okay, well, y'all are caught up now from her last procedure. We will definitely keep you posted about how all the medication changes are going and how she's feeling. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to us on Apple and Spotify and follow our Instagram. Thanks.
Bye.